to today's webinar, ArcGIS Pro Fantasy Draft Editing Tools. My name is Mark Ho. I'm a Technical Solutions Specialist in the Vancouver office, but today I get to play Draft Commissioner, and we have assembled a dream team of ArcGIS Pro experts here at Esri Canada. We got a mix of wily veterans and young rookies, and together we're going to draft some of our favorite tools in editing with ArcGIS Pro, and I'll explain what that means in just a few minutes. But first, just to give you a couple of quick reminders, this recording today, this webinar, will be recorded, so you have no worries. If you want to relive all of this, you can. You'll just see a little email that comes with a link, and then you'll be able to fill out a survey. So please let us know your feedback of what you thought of today's webinar. If you think this is a terrible idea, let us know. If you think this is cool, let us know that too. So we really appreciate your feedback, and you'll be able to provide it at the end. And yes, we are going to be taking questions during today's webinar. So if you do want to shoot us a question, use that Q&A panel. Make sure you choose Ask All Panelists. Type in your question and go ahead and click Send. We'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can, either during the session itself or at the end. If you're not able to see the Q&A panel, then those three little dots will help you guide you to that Q&A panel that you can bring up. All right, so 2020 has been, it's been an interesting year. I think all of us kind of share that sentiment. So we thought that we would bring back something a little bit fun to end our 2020 season of webinars. We've done a lot of webinars, and this is our chance to sort of let our hair loose and have a little fun with the topic. And in this case, the topic is going to be about editing in ArcGIS Pro. So hopefully along the way, you'll learn some tips and tricks. We'll show you some new stuff. We'll show you some classic stuff, just to give you a sense of some of the different components of editing within the Pro environment. And, you know, we want to make this for every level. So whether you're new to ArcGIS Pro or whether you've been using it for a long time, hopefully you'll learn something along the way. So that is our intention of what we'll be doing here today. But first, let's just kind of give everyone sort of a foundation, sort of a initial point of what we're talking about in terms of editing in ArcGIS Pro. First of all, what makes ArcGIS Pro editing unique? Well, ArcGIS Pro is designed for both 2D and 3D visualization. Same thing goes for editing. So within the same application, you can make your 3D edits, you can make your 2D edits. And we've reduced the number of mouse clicks to be able to do what you need to do. So simplifying the edit sessions, being able to edit multiple workspaces at the same time, all of that is just to make your workflows a lot easier and smoother. But of course, you want to maintain integrity of data, right? So things like geodatabase topologies, map topologies, they're all in there. Also, the ability to create multiple features at the same operation using group templates. So all of that is there as well. And yes, just because it's ArcGIS Pro, we have redesigned the user interface to make it more seamless and more intuitive for you to be able to do your work. So in the context of editing, we have the Edit tab, which brings up a ribbon at the top of your screen. And that ribbon, you can kind of think of it as the equivalent of your ArcMap Edit toolbar. And that's sort of your launch pad to be able to bring up different panes. So if you want to be able to create a new feature, if you want to modify an existing feature, if you want to add tabular attributes, all of those panes can be opened through that Edit tab. And of course, when you're making new features, you're basing them on templates. So these templates are going to be the different types of layers, and maybe based on symbology, you can create a specific template based on that symbology. Now, as you're creating a new feature, you'll see a little construction toolbar at the bottom and provide you some basic tools. But when you right-click, it brings up the construction context menu, which will provide many more options for you to be able to place that next vertex exactly where you want. There's a number of different settings, such as snapping, that you can set on the lower left-hand corner. And then finally, the contents pane will have a separate category to be able to list all of the layers that you can edit. And we'll show you what that looks like in just a sec. All right, so it is time for the draft. And the idea of this draft is for the 8 of us to be able to choose an editing tool or workflow that is within that editing context. And it could be, again, something very basic. It could be something very advanced. It could be something new. It could be something that's been there for a while. We can choose whatever we want, and we'll show you a little demo of how it works. But you have a very important job as well. So we want you to, of course, learn some of the tips and tricks and some of these new tools that we're going to show you. But also keep track of your favorites, because at the end of the draft, you have a very important job. You get to pick the winner of this year's draft for editing. All right, so as the commissioner, we have determined the order of the draft, and I can't believe this is happening. I am the first person to pick, so I feel really honored about this, but don't worry, the real professionals will also get a chance to pick as well. But, you know, I'm going to take advantage of this. You know, it's 2020. I think I can go ahead and be the boss of this. So I am going to make the first selection. I just want to thank, first of all, everyone at the viewing party down at the van by the river. Thanks for tuning in today. Really appreciate it. And I want to dedicate this first overall selection to that Fleetwood Mac TikTok guy. You're an inspiration, and dreams do come true. And I'm going to dedicate this draft pick to you. All right, so with the first overall selection in today's fantasy draft, I'm going to choose enable and disable editing. All right, so what does that mean? Well, first let me show you that I have a map here. This is just the ArcGIS Pro, got good old Prince Rupert here, and this is sort of your typical ArcGIS Pro layout. I do have some layers that I'm working with, but they come from different sources. So I have a schools layer that it happens to be a hosted feature layer in ArcGIS Online. I've got a couple of feature classes within a file geodatabase. I also got this street shape file that's floating around here as well. Now, first thing I want to do is I want to set up my conditions for editing. And one of the cool little tips and tricks is under the View tab, there is a Reset Panes button. And from there, you'll see that there is an option to reset panes for editing. So once I choose this option, it's going to launch for me those three main components that those three panes that I want to work with through editing. So create features, modify features, and then attributes down here is a tab that I can access to be able to make those attribute edits. The catalog here as well. So that's kind of a nice little easy way to be able to get exactly what you need for editing all in the same place. Now, I also mentioned that there is the list by editing option here in the contents pane. So like I mentioned, the ability to be able to edit multiple workspaces at the same time is available at Pro. In ArcMap, you have to switch back and forth between each workspace. Here you have a list of all the layers that you can work with. By default, all of the layers are turned on in your map. But if you want to be specific and say, I only want to edit, say, the schools and the amenities, you could turn off layers that you don't want to edit. So that gives you some additional control if you're worried about layers that are going to be at risk when you are editing. All right, here's another boss move, and that is to be able to take advantage of the quick access toolbar up here on the top left-hand corner, and to have common tools that you use all the time available up there. So things like being able to change the bookmark, and to be able to change the base map, to have your navigate or your explore tool up here, and your zoom in and zoom out. And the reason why is when you go into the edit tab, then you can still be able to do all of those basic navigation tools and be able to change your bookmarks and base maps as you need to without flipping the ribbon. So that's just another boss move for you to keep in mind. Now, if you want to be able to customize that quick access toolbar, you go here to Project, Options, and you'll see at the bottom there's the quick access toolbar option. You can add the tools that you want. This is also the place where you can access editing options, and I'll talk more about these editing options here in a sec. Let's return to the map. All right, so we are here at the Edit tab, and as you can see, the Edit tab kind of has the main tools. You can again think of it as sort of your ArcMap edit toolbar. And the one thing that most people from ArcMap coming to ArcGIS Pro notice that there's no Start Editing button, there's no Stop Editing button. And I guess the way we've always spun this is that we said that editing is always on, right? But that's not really true. It's kind of a misconception. there really are edit sessions in ArcGIS Pro, but you don't explicitly turn them on or off. So for example, if I select, say, a button here, or a point, and I can't just move that point. It doesn't allow me to just move anything that I want. Okay, you do need to go into an edit session to be able to make that move. Now, how can you launch an edit session? You basically do it by either creating a feature, or you can go to modify feature and change something that already exists. So once I make that move, so let's say I choose the move tool here under modify features, and I try to drag that point to the location, the edit session still hasn't really kicked in. Take a look at that save and discard. You notice that they're grayed out. But when I double click to be able to register that change, then the save and discard turn on. That's officially when the edit session begins and where your data becomes locked. Okay. So edit sessions are there in ArcGIS Pro. They're just not explicit. You don't need to turn them on and off. It'll do it based on the operations that you choose. Now, I know for some of you, that drives you nuts, right? You do want to have that explicit option. So we're going to return to that editing options. You can do it just from that little button here in the Manage Edits group. And there is an option here to enable and disable editing from the Edit tab. So that adds a new Edit button to your Edit ribbon. So you notice that if I go here to modify features, everything is kind of grayed out. Create features, you can't create anything. But when I click on the Edit button, it explicitly turns the Edit session on. You can make your moves and you make your create features, etc. So if I wanted to take this building and I just want to modify the vertices, I can do that. But of course, I turned it off, so you can't do that. And then once you finish your edits, then you could either save and discard and then close the edit session, and then everything gets grayed out again. So that is the basic premise of my first selection in the ArcGIS Fantasy draft, is to enable and disable editing, and this is available at all license levels, and you can access that through those editing options. All right, so now we are into our second pick, and I'm going to introduce Madison to the draft. Hello, Madison.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right, So just a quick question about latte art. I mean, is this like making those fun little foamy things on top of lattes?
Exactly. You can kind of pour the milk in a certain way where it makes leaves or hearts, or it can be very festive. You can even use a stencil and make a Santa Claus or something.
Wow. So it's almost like you're making edits in your coffee, which is a perfect segue to let you make the second selection here in our draft. So go for it.
All right, fantastic. I will just share my screen here. Okay, well, I'm so happy to be here. I work for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and my job is to help fans find the best route to get to the hockey games. Now, I noticed that the Toronto Road Network here is incomplete, and some roads are missing. Luckily, I have the perfect tool to use for this. The Create Feature tool is a widely used editing tool that allows you to build point, line, and polygon features directly into your data. The tool is equipped with many drawing templates to allow both easy and efficient digitization. So if we start our edit session here, we can see, because we are digitizing roads, which is a line feature, we have the option to use any one of these templates. So let's dive right in. We'll visit Park Road here. So Park Road is relatively straight, and as you can see, it has some intersecting roads. I'm going to use the line template, which creates a simple line with multiple vertices. So I'm going to snap here to the bottom of the road, and then click to snap to each intersecting road. I can click again to create this little bend in the road as well, and then double click to finish. Now, don't forget to also add your attributes at the bottom. All right, and when I select clear, we can see that the road is finished. Next, we'll digitize Crescent Road. This one is a little bit more complex. As you can see, there are some twists and turns. So I'm going to try and use the freehand tool. freehand creates a line that follows the movement of your pointer. So very carefully, I'm going to start the line over here. My hands are a little bit shaky this morning. I had too much coffee. But we'll carefully draw our line using the freehand tool. And then click once to finish. So that looks pretty great, but you know what? I notice here that one of our intersections isn't connected. So that might not work when using roads and road networks. So I'm actually going to delete this and maybe try a different tool. So the stream template creates a segment by streaming, and we can see we can select O for more options. So we have the option to edit the stream tolerance, and this determines how far apart the vertices will be drawn. I'm going to choose 10 feet. And as you can see already, this template allows us to snap to the roads as well. So I'm going to snap, and then the line follows my cursor once more. And as you can see, it's going to snap to the intersecting roads as well. Oh, I missed one. All right, so we click once, and now we can see all of our vertices. So if we'd like to, we can go in later and actually edit these vertices to move them to the correct position, and then click twice, and that finishes our road. All right, next up we have Maple Road. This is very unique also because it's a 5-way intersection. A great tool to use will be the radial template. So the radial template creates a series of line features originating from a common center. We'll select it and then come in and select the center point of our intersection. And I can then draw 5 separate lines and snapping them to the intersecting roads. Now, when done, I'll simply click F2 or again, double click at the end of the road segment. And as you can see in our attribute table, it creates 5 separate lines, which is perfect for this intersection because it's 5 separate roads. Lastly, we have Spadina Crescent. Now, Spadina Crescent is a perfect circle. And luckily, we have the circle template here, which creates a finished circular polyline feature. So I'm going to select the midpoint of the circle and then pull my circle out and snap to one of my intersecting roads. See, now again, we see that some of the intersecting roads didn't actually connect, which might not work. But I have a great idea. So we'll delete this feature. And down here in this extra little toolbar, there's the option to select 3-point circle. This is also going to create a finished polyline circle, except now we can select vertices from the surrounding of the circle. So we'll select the 3 points, and now we can see that our circle is complete and our road network is complete. So there we go. Now that all the roads are digitized, the fans will be able to find their way to the game and cheer on the Leafs. And we learned something new about the template options available within the Create Features tool. Super fun and very easy also. And that's all. Back to you, Mark.
Super fun. That is amazing. So for your second selection in today's draft, you have chosen the ability to use the Create Features tool to be able to make some polyline edits, and you showcase some of those tools that you see here in the toolbar. So awesome pick for your second selection, Madison. Really appreciate it. You know, I forgot to do the chime, so let's see if this chime is going to work or not for our next selection. I didn't quite hear that. All right, we'll save that. Tim is going to be our next drafter for today's draft. How's it going in Calgary, Tim?
It's going great. It's going great, Mark. How are you?
Hey, pretty good, thanks. So you finished watching Game of Thrones. Give it a letter grade. What do you think?
S.
S. S for satisfactory.
Yeah, for above, above A+, right?
Oh, okay. There you go. Now, speaking of A+, I'm sure you have an A+ selection that you're going to make for our third overall selection. So I will give the ball to you. Please make your selection.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, awesome. Hi, everyone. I work for the city, and my job today is to digitize some streets in the neighborhood. So for my selection, I found this new tool called cul-de-sac. Before this tool came out, I would have to create some lines and then use the Arc editing tool to make some modifications to my lines, many clicks. But with this new tool, it saved me so many clicks. So how I can find the tool is I can just go to the Edit tab within the Tools group. The drop-down menu, I can find it here, or in the Features group. If I just click the Modify button, this will bring up the Modify Feature pane, and then if I scroll down, I can also find it here. Okay, so for my demo, I have a feature class named Street, and I'm going to use the space map as a reference. And let's go ahead and do it. Let's first look at this cul-de-sac here. So what I'm going to do first is I will be drawing a line. And this line is going to represent the center line of the cul-de-sac street. And what it does is the cul-de-sac tool is going to create a cul-de-sac geometry which aligns with the center line I'm drawing here. So after I finish the line, I'll just go ahead and select the tool. And we're looking at some parameters here. So we have template. This is to make sure that we have the correct feature class selected. In this case, we have street feature class. And I'm going to check the box use template. For side, start of line means to create a cul-de-sac at the first vertex. End of line means to create a cul-de-sac at the last vertex. So as you can see here. So in this case, I'm going to choose start of line. And we have three values. Street width represents the distance between the open end of the cul-de-sac street from here to here. The radius is obviously the radius of the cul-de-sac circle. And the return radius is the radius of the two return curves. So let's go ahead and put in some numbers. And please note, for the units, I'm just going to make sure that they're all the same. So in this case, I'm using meters. I'm just going to put some numbers. I'm putting in, let's put 20 for all of them, and just to see how it looks first, and then we can modify. So it looks like it's a little bigger than the actual size based on the map. So let's just reduce the radius. So let's try 17. And let's shorten the street width. Let's try 18, and which looks pretty good. So once I'm satisfied, I'll just go ahead and click Create, and this will complete my first cul-de-sac streets. All right, let's look at another cul-de-sac streets because they don't always look as nice as the other one. This one is a pretty irregular shaped cul-de-sac. But I can also apply the tool because instead of a straight line this time, I'll just be drawing a curved line. And it's because the tool will generate the cul-de-sac aligns with the center line I'm drawing. So as you can see, we got a new cul-de-sac, and this cul-de-sac is following the direction of my center line. And let's go ahead and modify the numbers again. So this time, the cul-de-sac looks a little smaller, so let's just increase the radius. Looks like 20, maybe 22. Very nice. And for the street width, let's also try 22. Yep, so it perfectly aligned with the actual cul-de-sac circle. Again, once I'm done, I'll just go ahead and click Create, and this will complete my second cul-de-sac street. And I can just connect the gap between the lines with another line feature. Pretty simple, just like that. All right, that's how simple and useful the tool is. It gets the job done much easier. Saves me many clicks. Thanks, guys. Back to you, Mark.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Tim. That is such a cool tool, and it is a new addition to the ArcGIS Pro family. So Tim's pick is the cul-de-sac tool that's now brand new with the latest version of ArcGIS Pro, and it is available for all license levels. So thank you very much, Tim. All right, so we're now at our fourth pick. Maggie is our wait a second. I see a lot of activity in our chat, and on my phone is buzzing off the hook. Something's going on here. Oh my goodness. you want to hear this. We actually have a trade. What? So Maggie, our defending champion, wants to move down the draft, be able to make 2 selections, and Emily, you have forced your way up to this next position. So that is impressive, a very exciting move here, a first here in our fantasy draft. Our trade has just been completed, so that means, Emily, you are about ready to make the 4th selection. So, man, that is a stunning move. I can't believe you did it. Thanks for making this interesting, and thanks for making sourdough bread. Are you having fun with that?
I'm actually having quite a hard time. It's a lot harder than it looks. If anyone's got tips, I'm open to hearing them.
I'll just stick to the Wonder Bread at the store. Okay, it is time for the 4th selection. You are on the clock. Please make your choice.
Awesome. So I discovered something new this year with my extra time in lockdown. I discovered attribute rules this year, and I wanted to share that with you guys. So what I've got set up here are some simple feature classes stored in a file geodatabase. And what I wanted to do was get started with some editing. And what I first wanted to do was draw some new outlines to the city of Stephenville. So let's just get started here. I want to create. And here we go. We're going to start drawing the outline for Stephenville. This is in Newfoundland. And if we take a look at the attribute information for this new city outline, I created it without giving it a name. And it would be ideal to have a rule that prevents me from doing that. So for now, what I'll do is I'll just finish up this editing, give it the name, and we're good to go. And now say I also want to add arenas within the city boundaries. So we'll go ahead and add in some new arenas. And it would be really nice if I could pass on some information when I start creating these features, like the city name within which the arena is located. But more importantly, it might be useful to include a rule that prevents me from creating an arena outside of the city limits, or say in this case within the St. Lawrence. So what I'll do is I'm going to use attribute rules to help me out with this. I'm going to just go ahead and save these few features that I just created. And what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and create my first attribute rule. And I want to prevent an edit from happening based on a certain logic. So as a result, I'd like to start by creating a constraint rule. So we'll get that started. And what I'd like to do is make sure that when I create a new city feature, the right information is captured right away. So we'll give this attribute rule a name. And the most important part of the attribute rule is always the expression. And this is where I'll write my arcade script using our globals. And if you're not familiar with arcade, arcade uses context-based variables. And the most important one is this $ feature that you see right here. And it's the current feature that is being edited, updated, or deleted. And here's what's going on with this little snippet of code. If the feature name is null, then return false, which means please fail this edit and don't let it happen. Otherwise, return true. Let's just check and see that it works, and that's good. And before I go on, I'd like to add an error message to help out. Keep me on track to know why it is that I get an error if I try to create a new city feature. So I also have control over when this error is going to be executed. So in this case, the error will be executed when an insert or an update on the feature class is triggered. I'll go ahead and save this new attribute rule. And why don't we go back to this map and create a new feature. So I want to create a city feature. And we're going to go ahead and create city boundaries for Kiffins, Newfoundland. If I finish that, so I get an error. And it's probably the only time I'm actually happy to see an error pop up. So if you take a look at the information that's given here, it's telling me city must have name. And it was triggered by an insert event. So to fix that, I'm just going to go ahead and edit that and give it a name. We'll finish the city boundary edit, and we're good. We'll go ahead and save that new edit. So with the time that I have today, I wanted to create a second attribute rule. So we'll switch things up a little bit, and what we'll do is start by creating a calculation attribute rule. So this expression that I'm going to do is return the city name that is stored within the city feature layer and push that over to the attribute, the arena feature layer. So the rule is called city name from city feature class, and the information will be stored within the city name field of the arena feature class. I'm going to go ahead and start adding my arcade script in this case. And what I will do, just because of time, I will share a blog post that explains this code in a little bit more detail. But here are the Sparks notes. There is a variable that was created which will return the intersect between the city and the arena feature class. Now, when a new arena is created, if there is a city name, return that city name or fail the edit. So I want to just check that everything works. And again, I want to execute this upon an insert or an update of this feature. We'll save that. Let's go back to that map again. So say I want to create an arena feature. If I create it within the Kippens boundary, that's fine. That works. That's good. Say I create it within the Stephenville boundary, that's all right as well. But say I go ahead and I create it outside of the boundary, I get an error and it's telling me that it's just not working. And that would happen as well if I go ahead and I try to create it within the in the middle of the St. Lawrence. So that's just a quick glimpse of attribute rules, and there's really a lot that you can do in terms of different types of attribute rules, and there's really an endless possibilities. So I highly encourage you to join the GeoNet conversation. There is a new attribute rule page within GeoNet. I highly recommend checking out this guy's blog posts and videos, Hussein Nasser. He's got a lot of great content. And then I also have a shameless plug. Join Mark and I in February for a arcade webinar, and we'll walk you through a lot of cool stuff about arcade. And that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. There's no shame in plugging me, of course, because I'm so pluggable. I don't know what that means. But anyway, attribute rules has been your fourth selection. You'll notice that the attribute rules are read-only in BASIC, but in Standard and Advanced, you can create those attribute rules. And yes, there's tons of content that's out there, so definitely take advantage of all of that information that's out there. All right, we have reached the halfway point of our draft, and this gives us a chance to sort of take a little breather and maybe answer some of your questions. I think there's a question that I can answer here about how I was able to dock some of those panes. In ArcGIS Pro, all of the windows are dockable. So if I wanted to rearrange, like how I set up my modify features pane and have the catalog and the attributes all combined together, you can just manipulate and drag those windows to be able to create the look and feel that you want. So that's all I did to make that work. Madison, do you have any questions that are answerable?
I do. I have a great question from Matthew. He asked if my Toronto Maple Leaf background is a vector layer or an online layer. And the answer is both. So that is a Esri base map that I customized using the ArcGIS vector tile style editor. And I then saved it to my ArcGIS online account so that I can pull it into any project that I'd like.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's great. Tim, do you have any questions that you want to be able to answer here?
Yes, I do. I got a great one here. It's from, sorry, I'm just looking at the person's name who asked the question. I believe it's Merlin. Yeah. So yeah, to answer her question was how does the create cul-de-sac tool um, handle a change in projection? Yeah. So to answer your question, so changing projection would affect cul-de-sac just like any other features that are in the layer. The cul-de-sac is nothing too special. I hope that answered your question.
Perfect. And Emily, do you have a question that you're able to answer here?
Yeah, so one thing that came in was, can I export attribute rules? And there's actually a handy tool that is available that allows you to export the attribute rules set up for a specific layer in a CSV format. And then what you could then do is import that CSV to another feature, but you just have to make sure that it's the same, they have the same schema. And I noticed that there's other questions in the chat, and I'll try my best to answer those.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have some extra time at the end to be able to answer some additional questions. But I think it's time to go back into our drafting order, and Andrea is going to be next up. Are you looking forward to concerts in 2021? Is there one in particular you want to see?
Anything at this point, Mark, I think. I'm
All right,
itching to see a concert.
Polka Fest 2021. Andrew will
Yeah.
be in the front. Okay, it is your turn to make the next selection, so you are on the clock.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, so if you guys can see my screen here, so my pick is called Map Topology. So you guys might be familiar already with topology, but basically what it is, it's about maintaining correctness and integrity of your features. So we don't want messy features, we don't want gaps or overlaps between polygon features, so we can rely on topology to really help us clean up our data. And using map topology allows us to use the relative position of other features in our map to perform edits, so long as those features are visible and editable. So we're going to see it in action now. We have ArcGIS Pro up on the screen, and we have a layer showing the ward boundaries in Toronto. So we can actually see some topology errors right off the bat. Perhaps this is an old data set. Maybe there were some editing errors made previously. Maybe some vertices were moved. But otherwise, it does look pretty clean. So we're going to see how we can use map topology to fix these ward boundaries, and then we can continue working with this layer. So in order to use map topology, we need, as I mentioned before, the features to be visible and editable. So we check the table of contents here. Our wards layer is visible, but how do we ensure it is editable? We'll go to the List by Editing tab here, and this will show us that all the features in my map are indeed editable. So we'll go back to drawing order, and now we're going to enable map topology. So to do this, we're going to go to the Edit ribbon at the top, and in the Manage Edit section, we're going to select Map Topology. And it's as simple as that. So first issue, we're going to zoom in here. We see some overlapping features. It's pretty obvious here that our polygons are overlapping. We're going to go back to the Edit ribbon, and we're going to go to Modify. And that will bring up the Modify Features window, as you guys might have seen earlier as well. So we want to align the features. We want to align the edges of these polygon features. So we're going to select the Align Edge tool. And this is a tool that is only available when topology is enabled in your map. And I'm actually going to turn off the base map here, get rid of our Toronto Raptors colors, but hopefully you can see that a little bit better. So we have Align Edge enabled, and I'm going to hover over this overlapping section. So we see a dashed line here, and we also see a solid line. So the dashed line is where the solid line is going to end up. It's where it's going to snap to, basically. So if we click here, we can immediately see that we fixed these polygons, and it snapped to the adjacent polygon feature. Okay, so that issue's fixed. I did see another issue here when we were zooming in, so I'm just going to go over here. So we do have a little bit of a gap here between two polygons. Same functionality. Again, we're going to hover over the boundary line, and then we're going to click, and as you can see, that solid line snapped to the adjacent polygon and that dashed line. Okay, so lastly, I want to show you guys one more thing, because this is really where map topology shines. So we'll zoom in up here, And we see that the edge of this ward polygon, it doesn't have any adjacent polygon features. So we can't just snap this line here to an adjacent polygon. So what do we do in this case? Well, we have other layers in the map. We have our streets layer here. And it's a large layer, so I'm not going to enable it quite yet. It's all the streets in Toronto. So what we want to do, and you can confirm this by turning on your base map, is we want just this street to come up, and that will allow us to snap this polygon feature to the street line feature. So I actually already have a definition query created. Basically, it says road name equals Steeles Avenue. So I'm going to enable that here. And we'll make that visible again. Okay. So you can see it now. I mean, it might be a little bit hard to see, but we have our polygon feature here, and then we have our new line feature here. So we're just going to click on the polygon feature again, as we were doing before, and you can see it immediately snaps to the street line feature. And this is even despite these layers and these features being in a different geodatabase. All that matters is these layers are in your map and they are editable and visible. So I think it's pretty clear this map topology is a very, very powerful topology tool. It's really good for leveraging when you guys need to maintain the correctness of your edits and, as I said before, maintain the integrity of your features as well. So I think this is a pretty solid pick, but I will leave it up to you guys to decide, and I'll send things back to Mark.
That is an incredible selection, Andrea. We really appreciate that. So as we saw, map topologies allow you to be able to work with those coincident geometries, be able to connect things properly, and that's available at all license levels. So thank you very much, Andrea. All right, we're now into our sixth selection, and Mike Grigoski is going to make the big choice. Are you there, Mike?
I am there, Mark. How are you?
Hey, pretty good. How's the handicap?
About 29 right now.
29, all right.
Yeah, so
Boy,
I got to get going here. I'm going to watch the U.S. Open in a little later this week, and hopefully that'll inspire me.
Yeah, I guess that's a different green jacket you're wearing. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so please make your choice. Let's do it.
Yeah, so let's do it here. I'm going to choose Copy Parallel. It's a tool which is good on offense and good on defense. So let's show you how we can use this in Canmore, Alberta. I'm going to zoom into elevation place, and we've got some parking spots that we want to finish out here. This is a perfect use case for using the Copy Parallel tool. So a few ways that we can do this. I'll show you sort of three different ways. I'm going to start by just building some parking lot lines here. So I can just do some simple edits here to go basically set distance off of a corner of the curb. Our spots are 2.6 meters wide. So that'll be our first point. And then from here, I'm just going to go perpendicular to this curb, and our total distance in this case is going to be 5.6 meters, getting this from my notes. And then from here, we're going to go back. I'm going to delete that little vertex. Just going to escape out of that. See if I can get that vertex there. Where are you, buddy? Let's just do that one more time. I'm going to go my distance of 2.6 meters. And we're going to go perpendicular off the line for a total distance of 5.6. And then we will once again, let's see if I can get them there. I cannot finish that little part there for some reason. There we go. Delete the vertex and finish the line. So we haven't even gotten to the copy parallel part, and we'll get there next. So what am I doing here? Why am I doing that? Essentially, now I can take from the modify features, go to copy parallel. I get all kinds of options here that are going to allow me to set a distance of 2.6 meters. And then I can go either left or right, or both sides, and start figuring out how many actual repetitions I'd like. So I will get to 9. That should do it. I'll hit copy, and then we'll see here. There's my lines. So 9 parking spot lines, which are going to look really nice in this parking lot. But there's a few clicks here as I'm doing this. So let's see if we can simplify this a little bit. And I'm going to do that using the some of the grid tools that we have here. So my grid is currently off, and this editing grid is really helpful when we want to make changes based on some preset distances. In this case, 2.6 meters. So then I can interactively set my grid up to a corner, rotate it along to line it up with the vertex of this curve down here. That looks good. Now when I go to my parking spots, I can basically say this to here, my distance at 2.6 meters again. Oh, not 2.6, that's the width. That would be way too short. That'd be for a small car. Go 5.6 meters. There we go. And I will finish that sketch. So once again, I've got the line, enter copy parallel. We're going to go back. It's going to the left. It's already got the values from what I had before, and we're set. Okay. So this is looking great. Elevation place is getting filled out nice. Still a few too many clicks for me though. So these parking spot lines are all the same length. So what can I do to make this a little bit easier? Well, I can use some preset templates along with the parking lot lines here to do that. So I'm going to go into, pick one of those features, manage my templates, and then what I'll select here is preset template from selected features. So when I do that, it basically allows me to create a template based on that distance of that line. So I'll just call it parking spot lines. I will say OK to that. I'll actually even call it preset. That'll make it a little easier for me to keep it handy. When I click that, and I get this extra template here, I go back to create. Then I pick the preset. Then essentially, I just can put these lines right where I like them. And if I want to make an assist here on a goal from copy parallel, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take it down one because I already did one. And there we have it. So there we can see copy parallel used in a few different ways. Gives us a nice filled out parking lot and elevation place. So that's my pick, a tool which is good on offense, a tool which is good on defense. Mark?
Brilliant. Golf clap to that wonderful hole-in-one that you just made.
Thank you, Mark.
So, yeah, you're welcome. All right, so that is our sixth selection. It is the copy parallel tool. And again, as you saw, there's a number of different practical examples of how you can make those parallel lines fairly easily. All right, we're almost done. We're at number 7, and Sapide is going to make our next selection. How's it going in Calgary?
Always good. Hello from Calgary, everybody.
Yeah, is it cold? Is it too cold for a walk right now?
Oh, it's great, Mark. Today is wonderful. From my living room, I can see the Rocky Mountain. It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Goodness, I'm so jealous. All right, I'm going to be even more jealous when you make your 7th selection in the draft. So please go ahead.
I'm so excited for it. So let me share my screen. Okay. So sometimes we are tasked with creating realistic 3D buildings. In this demo, I will show you how to use edit vertices and multi-patch texture tools to create building residential like this in the city of Grand Prairie. To start, we need a polygon feature class as a building footprint and an empty multi-feature class. Also, we use a LiDAR dataset as a reference layer to determine how high to extrude the building footprint. We can use the measure tool to calculate the eave and building height before we can use the multi-patch editing tools. This polygon footprint must be copied to the multi-feature class, and then we will set the elevation on the ground. As you see, the building footprint seems to sink into the ground. That's because this footprint is a Z-enabled multi-patch feature class, and as a result, the editing vertices will not be honored. One of the workarounds for this problem is turning off the ground elevation. Now we can extrude the rooftop structures. You can find the edit vertices in the tool group or in the modify feature pane. I point to the multi-patch building footprint until the green editing handle shows up.
Then I right-click over it and type the if height, and then I press enter. Once we have a flat surface, we use the Edit Vertices tool to cut out the entrance from the rest of the building by drawing the split line. Before creating dormers, we need to turn on the endpoint snapping option for accurate pointer clicks. Also, we need to turn on the dynamic constraints. It enables us to constrain the direction and distance of a new line segment to specify the values. Also, it shows the length of the features we are working with. I use the endpoint snapping and the perpendicular and parallel editing constraints to cut out a block that matches the dormer's extent. To define the distance, I draw the split lines and press the Tab key to type the value and press enter. To extrude these faces, I right-click on the red editing handle to type the dormer's height and then press enter. And next, I split the rooftop in half to create a hip-shaped roof. But before extruding the rooftop, I need to create a hip-shaped roof for dormers first. I use the split line to cut the dormer's roof in half. The orange X indicates the center of the edge. To create the hip-shaped roof, I right-click the green editing sphere on the split line, and then enter the height difference between the rooftop and if height. And now I will use the same workflow to extrude the building rooftop. Now it's time to edit the front facade. First, I'll create a surface to cover the rooftop and fill up this gap. Now I apply the same workflow to edit the doorway to create the hip-shaped roof. And then I cut out a block that matches the door's extent using the split lines and the Tab key. And I use the Move symbol tool to drag it toward the inside of the building. To save time, I already finished the rest of the editing. And now it's time to show you how to use the multi-patch texture tool that you can find it in the Modify Features pane. You can load the image file and adjust how it appears on the selected faces by panning, rotating, and zooming the image in the image viewer before applying it to the feature. To save time, I've already applied texture to the rest of the building, and let me show you the result. And I hope you guys use these essential tools to quickly generate models of your buildings in your area. And turn it back to you, Mark.
I am so jealous. That is amazing. That building looks so cool. I want to live in it. I'm going to aim for that. So, Sapita, you have showed us an example of multi-patch editing as part of your selection. Again, reinforcing the important part of ArcGIS Pro, how you can make those 3D edits in Pro as well. So thank you for doing that. Appreciate it. All right, we are now into our final two selections. They're both going to be made by our defending champion. Maggie, how is it going?
It's going great, Mark. Been living off that win from last year all year long. Excited to make another pick.
All right, Oski Wee Wee, it is your chance. So please make your two selections.
All right, thanks. Let's take a look at ArcGIS Pro together here. Okay, so here I am in Hamilton, and my first pick today is going to be a classic, long-time favorite geoprocessing tool, the Snap tool. It's a great tool. It can be used on points, lines, and polygons and helps you take a look at your data, make things a little bit cleaner. So we're going to be looking at bike lanes and streets in Hamilton today. It looks a little bit crazy from out here, so we'll take a closer look at the city. People next year are really excited to be going back to those football games, and they want to start riding their bikes to the games, but my bike lane data set isn't great. We have a lot of gaps between that and the street layer, a lot of issues in the data, and this is all across the city. You can see we've got double lines in some places, and it's just not looking very clean. Sure, we could go ahead and edit each of these layers and features independently, but who has time for that? We've got the Snap geoprocessing tool to help us with that. So we can get to that tool by opening up our editing tools. I've already got my geoprocessing section opened, and we can search for the Snap tool. Here we've got Snap already opened up and ready to go. So you're going to put an input feature, and that's the feature that's going to get connected to or snapped to your desired feature. The feature that you're snapping to can be itself if you have gaps in your feature, or to any other feature in your map. So I'm going to put my bikes lanes as our input feature here, and I want to get this snapped to my streets because I think the streets are a little bit better quality than my bike lanes. So I'll put my streets as my feature here. You have 3 ways to snap. You can snap to an endpoint of a line, to a vertice, or an edge. I want to do all 3 because my data isn't great. It's not super clean, so I want to get this all 3 snapped together. I'll start with endpoints for anywhere that my lines don't line up exactly correctly. And we can use the measure tool to get an idea of how far we need to snap. So I can just take a look here. Move it to an intersection, not too bad, 11 meters, but I know there's some areas where it's a lot worse. So I'm going to just give it a nice safe buffer of 30 meters for an endpoint. I'll add another. You can add multiple rules at once, and those rules can be for different layers, but today we're just looking at streets. I'll do this for an edge. I'll give myself 20 meters on that edge, and then I will add a 3rd rule to snap to vertices. And we'll do 15 for that. You can always change these if you enable undo. If you don't like the way it looks in the end, you can go back and fix it. So you can do some trial and error if things don't look great the first time around. If you have multiple rules like this, it's going to try to do the rules in order that you've added them. So first it's going to look for those endpoints. Then it's going to go and search for an edge that's within the 20 meters. And if it can't find either of those, it's going to go for a vertex. So let's go ahead and run this tool and see if we can get our data cleaned up. The tool can take a little while to run. It depends on how many vertices you have in your feature. Just in case it's taking a long time, I do have a already snapped data set so we can see what the output's going to be. I'll put that on the map here to see if it'll load. Oh, it's taking some time, but that's okay. There we go. We've got a snap. It's a little bit better, or really it's a lot better. You can see your data's been cleaned up a bit. Most things are connected to the center line. There are still going to be some areas where maybe you have to do some manual edits here, you'll see. But in general, if we look at some other parts of the city, it's a lot cleaner than it was before. You can even go to where there's some more complicated streets, and everything just looks a lot better and saves you a whole lot of time when doing your editing. So Snap is one of my favorite tools. It cleans up your data, keeps things looking nice, and keeps your data all topologically correct, looking at the things we've talked about before today. So that's my first tool. I think it's great, but my real favorite tool here, my second choice, worthy of a trade in position, is going to be the group feature template. So let's move on over to Kitchener in Ontario. This tool, it's not really a geoprocessing tool. It's actually just a feature in ArcGIS Pro that helps make edits a lot faster. It's really going to be used when you're creating your data. So here we are in Kitchener, and on this map we have a lot of water network information. We've got our main water mains, we've got our lateral lines, and if we take a closer look at some parts of the city, we can see we've got water meters and fire hydrants that are connected to those lateral lines. I'm missing some data, and I know I need to draw quite a few more of these things. So sure, yeah, I can go ahead and draw each of my lateral lines, pop a water meter on the end of it, or a hydrant, depending on what we're looking at, but that takes a whole lot of time, and this tool, just like the Snap, is all about saving you time. So to get access to making a group feature, we're going to go into our Edit ribbon and select this little button corner, the Manage Templates in the Feature group. Here you'll see all the templates that are by default in your map, and we want to make a group template on those water lateral lines so that we can have those water mains or hydrants added when we do our editing. So since it's selected down here, I can go New and then Group Template. This is going to open up our dialog where we can set up the template. I'll give it a name. And you can put a description as well. I'll just use the same thing. Here you can select the tools that are going to be available for your main feature. Your main feature is the template that you selected earlier in your Manage Templates area. That's going to be my lateral lines. I really only need straight lines, so just to make it simple for myself, I'm going to get rid of all these extra tools. Of course, you can set it up however you want and you're working on it. I'm going to add a builder, and this is where things get nice and efficient for you when you're making those feature edits. So I'm going to add a builder here, and in this one, because I want to do the lateral lines with a meter, I'm going to select water meters. So now when I draw a lateral line, I'm going to be able to automatically draw a water meter as well. You have different options for your builders. I'm going to stick with point at the end of the line because that's what works great for me. You can put a position along the line, so if I wanted to add a distance of like 10 feet, that would be 10 feet from the end of the line, or you can do a proportional distance, but for me, I'm just going to stick with the end. And I also don't need an offset, but of course that is an option if you want. You can add multiple builders, but for me, this is good. This is all I need today. I'll say OK. If you want to make another one here, you can. You just have to select the main feature again from your options, and the group templates will be available. When I'm going to continue working on this project later, I will want to make another one for my hydrants, but just to get an idea of how this works, we'll stick with just the water meters today. Now when I go back over to Create Features, I'll see that I have two templates under my water lateral lines, the main one and the lateral with meter. So I'll select this and get a little closer to my map. And I know that I have a couple meters to draw on this street, so I'll click once to start, double-click to finish, and there, my meter is immediately added, so I've got data added to both of these two features. You can do that multiple times. If you have a long line that's going to have meter away at the end, on your final double-click, it's going to add that feature in. This is a great tool. It saves you lots of time. You can get your data edited quickly. You can use it for all different types of features, and you'll have different builders available depending on the type of data you want to work with. So that's just a quick example of how that's going to work with points and lines, but I definitely recommend taking a look at the group features. It's a fabulous tool, and it makes editing a lot faster and a lot more convenient. Those are my picks today, Mark. I think they're pretty strong, and hopefully you guys like them too.
Oh my goodness, that is a very strong set of tools that you have selected. I'm blown away. So Maggie's two selections. The first one is that snap tool, and then as you saw, one of the main components of ArcGIS editing in Pro, and that is the ability to create these group templates. So incredible job from all of our draftees today. There is our complete list of the selections that were made. But now the most important part of the draft is about to happen. So Jacek, if you don't mind, put up the poll. So we want you, as our watchers out there, to select who won the draft. So go ahead and please make your selection. And while we're waiting here for a few seconds, just want to thank everyone for tuning in today. And I hope you've enjoyed this webinar and all of the webinars that we've done throughout the year. And there's going to be plenty more coming up in 2021. So we're glad that you're sticking with us and that you're all safe and sound. Again, the holidays are coming up, so if we don't get a chance to say it a little later, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'm trying to soften things up so I can get a few votes. That's really what it's all about. And if I win, we'll stop the counting. There will be no recounts. So just keep that as well. All right, so the time has elapsed, and we get to find out who won. Are you kidding me? No! Maggie has come through again and defended her championship with the majority of those votes. So congratulations, Maggie. You are the champion of this edition of the Fantasy Draft. That's 2 in a row, and you get the most valuable prize of 2020. You get to have some toilet paper, but not just any toilet paper. This is that one-ply toilet paper that's been in the office for the last 9 months that nobody wants to claim. So congratulations, Maggie. You have won the best prize of the year. And, well, I don't know what's going to happen next year. I think we do need a recount now. Okay, we went through a lot. We went a few minutes over. I hope you guys don't mind. But hopefully over the last hour, you saw a few things in editing to allow you to make your work more efficient. So we showed you some tips, some tricks, some new stuff, some classic stuff, and hopefully you got something out of it. There are a number of resources that are out there, so please take advantage of our documentation, our blogs, our Learn Gallery, and we also have a series of YouTube videos, including one made by Maggie, our champion herself, that introduces you to editing your data in Pro. So if you're a newbie and want to get a lay of the land, that's a really good video that Maggie has built, and you can access that through our Esri Canada YouTube channel. Like we mentioned, there's a number of different webinars that are coming up. Our big year beginning kickoff with Chris North, talking about a modern GIS, and then Emily and I will return in February for something about Arcade. So look forward to that. And of course, there is a training course that's specific to creating and editing data, as well as being able to migrate your content from ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro. All right, so that is it. There's our email addresses. If you have any specific questions for us, you can shoot them our way. And of course, you can contact us through social media. Got to give a special shout out to Jacek as well, who was the technical genius behind all this. So we really appreciate you pushing all the buttons. All right, so we're going to stop the recording at this point, and then we're going to answer a few more of your questions. So if you're